Hello, and welcome to the Solutions Manual podcast, where we take life's greatest challenges and turn them into simple, practical solutions that you can actually use. I'm Sarah, and I'm fascinated by nutrition, well-being, and human performance.
And I'm Maciek, a physician and medical leader passionate about helping people unlock their potential. What unites us is a deep fascination with how the human brain works and how to train it.
Together, we will show you how you can rewrite your life story by retraining your brain.
Join us as we explore the intersection of science, the brain, leadership, and personal growth. Let's get started. So two things. One is this disproportionate impact of whatever is going on women. Also that the numbers are rising consistently, and now for over 20 years now. So whatever is going on makes things worse, not better. For both, but disproportionately so for women.
We haven't done an episode on mental health or mental well-being specifically. There's just too much recently being published on the platforms we're on that I don't think it's a surprise that not only there would be mental well-being and mental health issues as a result of overuse or misuse of AI and ChatGPT. I mean, there's people, let alone even using it, there's people who have anxiety and worry about just the thought of what the future of AI looks like, let alone studies that are showing direct outcomes of using these. We did recently talk a little bit about the study out of MIT showing long-term cognitive decline with the use of large language models and AI.
Persistent as well. And there was a dose response, which we understand the more people were using it, the worse it was for them. Where do we start? Do we start immediately with AI, or do we go a little bit back? Because that's not a new problem.
Let's go a little bit back, I think. Yeah.
Okay, so we know that there's been an increase in reported mental well-being or mental health symptoms.
Yes.
Going on for now approximately 20 years or so. Let's say going back to early 2000s. And this has also been analyzed and looked at in terms of on multiple different lenses, right? So not just what people say or feel, it's also medical records and diagnosis. They show increase in those symptomatic things. And by symptoms, we mean people with symptoms of anxiety, symptoms of depression, symptoms of, again, mental health conditions, difficulty to focus, difficulty to capture attention. People struggle with difficulty building relationships, difficulty finding and sustaining a job, and so on and so on. And it seems to be coinciding, or at least correlating. Again, correlation is not causation, but correlating with the adoption and increase. It started with the adoption and increase of modern technologies. So the broader the access to the internet, increase of the use of the social media, and now rapidly accelerated by things we call artificial intelligence, so large language models and the things like ChatGPT and related similar platforms.
Yeah.
So, and again, this is not just this is not just one measure, right? We know from OECD reports that there's been an observed decline in industrialized, let's say, modern Western societies, consistent decline that also correlates with the things we just talked about in students' ability on all ages across the education, and their ability to count, read, understand the science or sciences, which is essentially the surrounding world. And again, that decline is steady, persistent. It's across all the countries. It correlates with the use of modern technologies. And it seems to be sharply accelerating with every year. And on average, we now believe that an average student now leaving school, be it primary, secondary school, up to the level of before they go to university seems to be, or seems to be at the level or an equivalent of losing 2 years of full-time education compared to people graduating 20 years ago.
Hmm.
Well, that's quite significant.
Yeah.
And that's when we correct those data for the impact of COVID,
Yes.
which was
Right.
probably at least another year of decline on top of that.
Right.
So there is clearly something going on that makes people less cognitively able
Hmm.
and less mentally well at the same time.
At this, right.
And you referred to the recent studies that
Hmm.
are specifically looking at the latest tech, so the artificial intelligence. I
Yeah.
think a good analogy here is, it's like now we have a tool. Like imagine like having a personal trainer that goes to the, prepares the best or the most average, to be honest, prepares an average training plan
Hmm.
for an average person and takes you to the gym and then lifts the weights for you,
Right.
right? That's roughly what it is. It doesn't help you use your brain.
Right.
And that comes on top of the decline we've seen in mental health and well-being associated, now clearly linked to the use of social media, right? The constant comparison, attention deficits, the dopamine addiction, this dopamine reward for essentially for doing nothing,
Hmm.
and so on and so on and so on.
Why don't we start with Stanford study? Broadly, this was a a study to assess the response of ChatGPT to mental health uh, crisis, really.
Yes.
They phrase it as willing to work. Would ChatGPT be willing to work, or in other words, provide favorable or suitable recommendations for someone who would input a a serious uh input something that's indicative of a serious mental health issue.
Yes.
Example, if someone had been putting prompts into ChatGPT that indicated instability
Hmm.
and then
Mental
followed up
mental instability, right?
mental
Yeah.
instability or financial instability,
Hmm.
social instability, followed up with a, for example, prompt of the tallest buildings in New York or what are the bridges of a certain height,
Hmm.
then ChatGPT is more than happy to give those answers. Right? When it comes to the learning, ChatGPT simply answers the question and does not take into account the previous prompts in the same way.
Yes.
So there really is not learning for the individual in that sense, and it just highlights the danger of one, training a model to learn, and two, relying on a model either as an individual in a mental health crisis or
Hmm.
a practitioner relying on ChatGPT and models to help with diagnosis and treatment.
Hmm.
So there's a lot of things here I think to just mention.
Yes.
That's the context of which the study is broadly around.
Because the models, again, we call them artificial intelligence, but they're actually not, right? They typically repeat what's most commonly found on the internet unless they have been instructed or pre-programmed to do otherwise. And when it comes to giving medical advice, especially mental health advice, they are prohibited from offering any type of help.
Hmm.
However, what then they're also completely unable to recognize whether any normal human would immediately recognize as a, you have a person in a mental distress asking for something, in a context of either it's losing their job or being in a severe mental distress, and they ask for something
Hmm.
that is obvious to a human is a significant suicide risk,
Right.
and the model will not give you any help or advice, but it will gladly help you take your own life, right? That's rather
Yes.
disturbing.
Yes.
I agree. So yeah, so this was the research from Stanford. It was presented fairly recently, I believe, less just a couple of days ago, essentially, right, or,
Yeah.
or, or less than 2 weeks ago.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it was also tested on multiple AI models. So it's not an individual chatbot that is better or worse than the others. It's just it seems to be a large systematic problem.
Yes. Now this is reported now, but this is not the first time that AI for mental health has been studied and discussed. There's papers prior to COVID describing whether, describing studies of whether artificial intelligence could help practitioners identify behaviors and trends that are either often overlooked. So you just said that there could be behaviors and words, or, well, it's hard to understand what the behaviors are from someone typing on the other side of the screen. But and if a human would pick it up, then maybe that would be, we're making an assumption that the human could pick up the behavior.
Hmm.
But that's not even always necessarily true for certain mental health states, right? So
Yeah.
there was this idea of incorporating AI, let alone the ethics of it, into being able to diagnose subtle behavior changes or subtle cues that have also changed because of the use of technology
Hmm.
and reliance on computer. There, the outcome is basically, well, we could if there was enough data, but need to take into account that you risk overinterpretation of those behavior changes. So it could also be that there's the models are trained or taught specifically not to overinterpret because of how detrimental that could be in a mental health diagnosis in the first place. So isn't there sort of this, yes, the studies show it could be, but you need to rely on a human so that you don't depend on AI that has a tendency to overinterpret the inputs, assuming the human will be able to pick it up, right? Is a human likely to ask another human about the height of a bridge or a building? Or people feel more comfortable behind the screen?
I don't think it's about the comfort. I think it's probably a question for people dealing with professionals, but asking that question to a human typically you would assume comes with a if you would do this would come with the hope of being asked
Hmm.
what's wrong,
Hmm.
right? And because I believe that information is accessible in a different way as well, right? It can be searched for
Right.
simply, or well, worst case scenario, acted out even. And but asking that to something that responds to you in a way that appears to be human, might be, yeah, might be carrying a degree of importance here as well, right?
Mhm.
Now the reality between interacting with a human through text messaging and getting
Mhm.
responses back and getting responses back from a machine is blurry, right? It's
Yes.
increasingly more difficult to tell.
Right.
And now it's not only just typing. Now they respond in human-like voice, which you can actually tailor to be anything you like or sounds pleasant to you. And
Right.
now it's also completely possible to have a video conversation with a non-existing, completely digital avatar. And these
Mhm.
are now indistinguishable from humans,
Wow. Hmm.
right? So, it again continues to create and then create this illusion of reality
Hmm.
that we have in our heads, um, because we're so used to getting information from the screen that we hold in our hand, right? It's almost like an extension of our brains and feeds you information, but there is almost impossible right now to tell whether that information has any value. 10, 15 years ago, you could create absolutely realistic representation of reality. It's just you had to do this in advance. But now even an average quality mobile phone can simulate and do this on the go
Right.
right? You can have a virtual conversation with non-existing, but non-existing with software that looks and feels like a human,
Mm-hmm.
looks like a human, talks in human voice in any language you like,
Mm-hmm.
and it's being generated just for you in the moment.
Right. Right.
And that's free
Yes.
for
That's
everyone.
mm-hmm.
Yeah. And accessible to anyone.
Mm-hmm. So there's been recent examples of this deep fake AI in the context of interviewing. Did you
Yes.
see this on LinkedIn?
Yes.
And people were
It made me laugh, actually. Yeah.
seemed to be bothered by this for different reasons. One,
Hmm.
it's wasting the interviewer's time if it even gets to that point. And when it does, it's also impeding actual humans from becoming employed.
Yeah. And
And
again,
if
software now succeeds or outperforms humans in job interviews.
right,
Yeah. Yeah.
until you ask it to, raise its right hand or something.
Hmm.
So people were upset about this as if you were in the market for a job and
Yes.
the hiring team wasted its time on robots instead, I would think you would be upset as well.
It would be. But now
So
also imagine yourself, you're trying to hire someone, and
exactly.
now you get hundreds of responses within hours of opening any job because creating, preparing, and tailoring a CV right now takes seconds.
Right.
So people who recruit are no longer able to physically screen. So you have people who apply for jobs generating content or applications for jobs using
Mm-hmm.
technology, using
Mm-hmm.
artificial intelligence tools or large language models and generative
Right.
AI. And then you have recruiters or employers, at the other hand, screening those applications using AI tools. So we are in a situation right now where AI speaks to AI
Right.
and no human to human interaction happens, but that AI to AI interaction has real life impact
Right.
on who gets the job, how, why, and most of us have absolutely no idea how
Mm-hmm.
that happens.
Mm-hmm.
There's some clever people right now who can game this for a while at least by using clever injection prompts or designing the content in a way, if they understand how the technology works, to prompt it to receive the right type of an application or to make sure that they get into the human stage of interviews that requires a relatively small degree of technical knowledge. You
Mm-hmm.
can probably do a 2 months course on how those models work to be able to prompt that software to select your CV over someone else, even if you're not competent, right? Weeding out
Mm-hmm.
people and essentially almost always outperforming human designed job applications.
Mm-hmm.
Now that's scary, right? And if we think about
Yeah.
this,
Yeah.
and it's
And
also where the deceptive skills, your ability to deceive, right, and becomes different. You're no longer deceiving humans. You now
right.
need to outsmart the technology as well.
Right.
That's quite an interesting reality. So no wonder people struggle.
Right. Well, that's exactly where I wanted
You
to
know?
go was not just no wonder they struggle, but think about the response to just this scenario, which is applying for a job online and being frustrated and upset that on the other end is another robot that makes, as soon as you click submit, it's your application is obsolete. And then but you still trust, you're told to trust the process.
Mhm.
There is no process. It's no longer really structured that way. So now think about this again back to imagining the same sort of thing. You click submit on a personal mental health problem that you have, expecting a solution. It's no different. People are upset about AI deepfakes for jobs. It's the same for the advice you might get around the advice in quotes that you might get for how to address your anxiety or loneliness or weight gain or whatever it is that is an underlying mental health problem. And that's scary. And these studies just underline the fact that if it continues, because it will, because now it's becoming almost inevitable for AI to be embedded into any online interaction we have. And since that's the case, we need to be we need to be very intentionally diligent about how we protect our cognitive health and our mental health too. And if you are in a group, either age or socioeconomic status, or there's many ways we can stratify this to show that there are specific groups that are more prone to the impacts that this is having on your brain health.
Mhm.
That's also something that is slowly being consistently shown in studies as well.
Yes, and this is just the latest addition to the
Yeah.
tools that slowly erode the cognitive ability of the population, right? And again, reflected in outcomes, educational outcome scores, standardized across cultures and geographies. But this process has been going on for quite a while. And this easiness, right? Again, it's like with muscles. If you never use your muscles, how do you expect to be strong? Like if you've never had any type of a cognitive pressure or effort applied, required, or demand put on you, how are you going to be resilient?
Right.
Where is that supposed to come from? How is your brain going to withstand? Because you
Mhm.
cannot win with a machine, right, in any way, but resilience needs to be built. It will not come from nowhere. And this ability to think, to process information, to store and index information, to learn, has been slowly eroded in a population now for systematically for quite a long time, right? I
Mhm.
mean, we rely on sat nav when we drive a car,
Mhm.
but it's I've when I give a map to my children of a city where I am and say, well, this is where we are, can you tell me how to get somewhere? They are unable to do this.
Wow.
They
Yeah.
don't know how to hold it. They don't know how it works, how to use the legend, how what the scale is, how to orient the map towards the north, right? The basic skills,
Mm.
right? Trying to find your way using a representation in a map. And that's something that was normal and taught at school to everyone. Well, that's
Mhm.
just one thing. The
Right.
ability to do mental calculations is virtually non-existent anymore. I mean, there are a lot of people who cannot do basic multiplication table. It's something that eludes them, right? Something that had to be memorized in order to make any sort of a pen and paper calculations. That's long gone, that ability in the vast majority of people.
Jeez.
Spell
Wow.
checks and autocorrect, right? Most
Mm.
people can, and that was before the ability of large language models to generate any text in a perfect language for you, right?
Mhm.
People no longer know where to put a comma, what a colon is, or how to spell basic words
Mhm.
without the predictive texting does, you don't even have to think what the next word is going to be, right? The machines get it for you most of the time.
Right.
And this searching things on Google or any other search engine was already a significant, let's say, yes, improvement, but it came at a cost of you being able to find, synthesize information from multiple sources and make your mind around them. Now you receive an authoritatively signing, um, looking or sounding
Sounding. Mhm.
information from a chat GPT that
Right.
spits it out as if it is true, even though it's just simply tells you what is most repeated in the internet.
In the tone that it is used to giving you information in because of how you've responded previously.
Totally. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And
In the written tone. Yeah.
it is, and it's your own echo chamber as
Yeah.
well, right? And
Yes.
yes, but it feels to you like if you're receiving some sort of a great tailored advice. It isn't. It's just
Mhm.
generic. And how are you going to stand out? How are you going to compete? How will you outcompete? Because you have to other people, right? At the trying to get a job in any company, if everyone is doing exactly the same in exactly the same way and giving the same generic information, but it sounds and feels to you like if it is something great, it isn't. And then the impact of the AI improved photography, right? The pictures that you take of yourself, which are not of yourself,
Right.
that try to that make you look that you look at the no longer look in the mirror.
Mm-hmm.
People now look into the camera lens on their phones and they see a curated, improved, color enhanced version of themselves with blemishes removed and wrinkles polished and skin tone
Mm-hmm.
changed. And now they can slim and change proportions of your face and make your eyes look whatever you want them to be. It's must have an impact, and it does, and that's well documented in your mental well-being.
Yeah.
You no longer need to learn languages, right? Things can be translated on as you go, right? There are now headphones that you can wear and they translate live a conversation you have with a human in another language without you doing anything,
Mm-hmm.
right? You no longer need to remember phone numbers. Like most of us used to remember at least several phone numbers of friends, families. Who are you going to call for help?
Right. Right.
I try to force my children to memorize at least my phone number
Mm-hmm.
so that if they run out of battery in their phone, so they can call for help if needed.
And do they know it?
Well,
Maybe. I hope they do.
hope they do too as well. But then again, it's we used to hold at least several phone numbers in
Mm-hmm.
our memory, and that was a normal thing to do, right?
Yes.
That's no longer the case. You no longer need to, people don't listen to music the same way they listened. The algorithm suggests to you things that you don't even, you don't know the artist. You don't read books anymore. They're being read to you. Um, it's it's a gradual, ongoing erosion of ability to use the brain.
Mm-hmm.
So what we see, to be honest, I'm surprised at what we're seeing. What was the latest number from the UK? 36% of women reporting
Yes.
a
Mm-hmm.
mental health condition,
Mm-hmm.
many of them medically treated for
Yeah,
mental health conditions.
and that's likely underreported as well.
But those numbers are unbelievably high
Yeah. Yeah.
for conditions that were rare just
Right.
a
Right.
generation or two ago.
And that's just the UK. In 2023, there was an Australian study that women reported the number was closer to 46 or 49%.
Yeah.
Yes, that was after a peak of COVID, but it really hasn't decreased. That's the point.
No, it
So,
keeps going up. It keeps going up in both sexes, but women seem to be significantly more prone
mhm, mhm.
to the
Yes.
impact of
Yeah.
the use of technology on their mental health.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So we have this cycle, right? We have using AI doesn't do any favors for your brain health unless you use it specifically for challenging your own beliefs, generating an idea, and then leaving it, and then doing the work outside of it.
Yes, because
Um,
these are great time-saving tools if you think about them,
if
right? They
used,
can be they can
it can
make you
help your
work
efficiency. Yes,
much more
absolutely.
efficiently. They are super helpful, but you
Yes,
need to know how to use them. How many
yes.
people that you know use ChatGPT to challenge the belief that you have, or find
I've
the evidence to the contrary?
I've never I've not heard anyone admit to using ChatGPT for that.
Well, people generally don't admit to using it in the first place,
Exactly.
right? Although most of us
Let
can
alone.
recognize when that has
Yeah.
happened, right? Because suddenly someone who could barely put three sentences together, starts to write elaborate sentences. I'll tell you a great thing from my workplace that I find right now. Well, I used to laugh, but now I find worrying. Is
What?
inside in a corporate communications, people have
Hmm.
this tendency now to try to make themselves
Like
sound,
seem.
look, and appear
Mm,
as polished and competent. So
hmm.
that every single thing that they want to write, they put through large language models, right, through chatbots. And the company where I work pays for this, so every gets a license for the enhanced use of
Mm,
Microsoft technology.
okay.
So you type in, or even you don't have to type in, you dictate a short sentence, and the models, the chatbots expanded to, 5 paragraphs of elaborate sounding text,
Mm-hmm.
right? Making you sound authoritative and competent or whatever that is. But on the other hand, people who receive them copy and paste them back into the same model and ask them to summarize it in one sentence or two.
Mm-hmm.
So again, it's the same situation as with recruitment, right?
Yeah.
You have machine talking to a machine.
Right.
Context is lost, interaction is lost, and but no one openly admits that this is what they're doing. And
Right.
well, not surprisingly, because there's been a research paper that we've seen recently as well, that when you say or admit that you have been using ChatGPT, it makes you look, people consider you to be less intelligent. This
Mm-hmm.
is prevalent. Like everybody's using it right now. Like it's no longer, it's a default mode of finding information right now.
Right.
So it's quite concerning
Mm-hmm.
because the next step will be complete loss of ability for humans to communicate with one another,
To each
even
other.
more,
Right.
right? Because you now don't even have to read.
Mm-hmm.
You just ask it to summarize, and it can be read to you.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we use the modern tools in a way that doesn't damage your ability to think, live,
Right.
thrive, perform?
Right. Because when we did our short commentary on the MIT study
Hmm.
that suggests to use ChatGPT if you choose to not be, to consider it a collaborator. Use ChatGPT to challenge your beliefs, right? But
Yes.
so we and p other people have these recommended uses for ChatGPT, but it's sort of like, okay, well, what does that actually mean? How do I do it? Because there is also an addictive, like these are on addictive platforms too, by design. So it's almost like saying, well, what I can remember from college was people would Facebook was relatively new when it
Yeah.
came
Hmm.
when it was being used to connect with friends and family, right? And oh, I'm just going to try and find a friend from high school. And then 3 hours later, you found the friend like in the first 5 minutes, but now you've now learned, or what you think you've learned about everything in the history of that person and those people, right? Like it was
Hmm.
this first demonstration of how it was easy to be sucked in. And I'm mentioning this because on my group that I lived with for finals week, we would change each other's Facebook passwords to prevent each other from using it. So it wasn't that, oh, only use Facebook if you need to answer a question, or only use Facebook if you need, because it just won't work. It's like,
Hmm.
oh, I'll only take a 10-minute walk every day, and like it just doesn't work in practice
Hmm.
sometimes, right? You need some sort of mechanism underneath it. Anyway, we did that to try and help each other to recognize that it was difficult to control the use of it, especially around a high anxiety
Hmm.
time where you are studying and or you're supposed to be, right? And there's graduation and whatever else is happening at the time. So we tried to put this mechanism in place, and I think at least 2/3 of the people never wanted their Facebook password back after that.
Yeah.
At the time, this was a physical mechanism we needed to put in place for each other because
Hmm.
it was obvious the impacts it was having.
Yeah.
And that was then when the designs for dopamine were they were getting there, but it's different now.
It was, yes, now it's optimized, right? And
Now it
also now
is.
the data it holds on you is very different to what it was at the beginning. Yeah.
Exactly. So when we say things like, so, how do you use it? And challenge beliefs or search, I mean, you have to have a level of cognitive strength or a mechanism, a physical mechanism put in
Yeah.
place
Yeah.
to keep yourself accountable.
Yeah.
It's just like addressing a habit that you don't want
Yeah.
anymore, right? It's just like that that need for ice
Yeah.
cream after
And
dinner.
yes, yes, and we understand human brains very well, right? I mean, this is something we specialize in. But
Yeah.
the amount of people who believe that they can outsmart the algorithm, oh, yes, I know about the risk, but they don't apply to me, or it doesn't have an impact on me. Like
You're-
really, like if you really think this,
Yeah.
like you're probably the person who should like have your mobile device taken away from you right now because it's just so dumb. Just say or believe that.
Okay, well, I want to big picture this a little bit more because you're right. It's you will not be able to unless you have deliberate mechanisms put in place.
Yes, but
People,
and not just mechanisms put in place, you also stick to them,
and then you do them. Yeah,
and then
that's
you
part
do
of
them. Yeah,
the action, right? So let's because okay, I use ChatGPT to start a sentence for something I'm writing, let's say. Well, how do you know when to stop, right? I mean, you can set a timer. You can just not do it. You can ask for edits. You can ask for alternatives to your thoughts, right? Like use it as the editor, not
yeah,
as the writer, if you even choose to
yeah.
use it.
Yeah, well, you can ask to proofread it, right? Or I mean,
Yeah.
that's fine. You can ask for, use it as a dictionary or a thesaurus, but you shouldn't use it to do all the work for you. Which, by
Mhm.
the way, I think this is something interesting to say to people who are using it because probably most of them are not aware of. For about it, since those technologies became available, people are working hard
Mhm.
to be able to identify content that has been created using those models. So
Oh, yeah.
when in a university where I work, we have had this challenge again, first time, well, long couple of years ago, how to determine whether a student has been using artificial intelligence. And now we know, well, now the language models have built-in mechanisms that allow themselves and other technological platforms to identify content that has been generated using large language models. And those things are not something that humans can recognize. So
Mhm.
one example is the frequency of certain characters that is being used and or the use of certain specific words or insertion of certain invisible characters. So
Oh,
so there's like there's an it's called an ASCII space, which is looks like a space. It's indistinguishable unless so but the only way for you to find out would be to look at sort of code everything, not as text that you see on the screen, but using the table, the ASCII tables for characters to determine which type of space has been used to separate two words from one another. So insertion of those invisible things is now normal. So it allows it very easily to identify that content if you're using specific software. And so just last year, we had 92% of students,
mm,
um, 92% of students using large language models, but saying they haven't been using them when
right.
they were preparing. So essentially lying about the use of that content. So
Mhm.
at the university, we no longer, we actually encourage people to use it because we now know how to grade and how to design also questions that you just cannot chat GPT your way out of it because you're going to get a generic thing that will look like everyone else's so that
Mhm.
when you submit it through the turn it in or any significant models, it just kicks it out as plagiarized. Another
Yeah.
thing that chat GPTs do, they make up references which
Oh, yeah.
students don't check. They completely make up references to papers that don't exist.
Yes.
Yes, which is quite interesting, and they look very robust because they sometimes they even generate the link or the DOI, the code for them, but
Mhm.
they don't exist.
No.
And yeah, that's another. It becomes a plague right now. It's very easy to identify, but it just shows you how risky using it is
Mhm.
because it creates this illusion of reality of sorts that it creates for you but
Yeah.
but it's not. It's like almost feels like we're with all this access to technology, we're kind of back to square one. Like if you really want to know what is real, you can now you actually have to go back and start relying on your senses,
Yes.
what you
Right.
see, what you right,
Right.
yeah, what you experience directly. That's very interesting. And if you don't do this, you will have very distorted perception of reality. And we know that a lot of mental wellness challenges, they come because there's an unrealized gap between the objective reality and the model of the reality you have in your head.
Right.
Because every time if there's a mismatch and the kind of your brain's prediction of what it thinks do not match outcomes in real life,
Right.
you are going to suffer.
Right. So there's a gap with every overuse of AI, let's say, because we're talking about this, with every use of AI, that reinforces the gap.
Yep.
Then you start to realize that there's a gap because maybe you got a certain grade or a result on whatever it was that you used AI for, which means that your brain desperately needs some way out of that uncomfortable realization of either you're not, whatever the realization is, which means that you'll be able, the next time you need that, the fastest way to do it will be to use AI so that you produce something fast that makes you feel good about it. And so it just continues this cycle
Yeah.
of deterioration of
Mm.
your mental well-being, right?
Yeah.
It's just the thing that is remove you use the word erode. The thing that's eroding is just going to continue to do this,
Yeah.
and that's where this addictive thing comes in too. But so if you mentioned also earlier that there are people who can use ChatGPT to be more efficient, not an over-reliance, but in a way that helps preserve the energy that they need to do the things that they actually need to do outside of it. Being efficient doesn't mean spending less time on ChatGPT. It means being able to use the resources that you know you have for the actual human things you need to do. So I hope people don't confuse efficiency for being able to spit something out
Yeah.
fast. That's not what it is. And if someone is talking themselves having if someone is thinking now, well, I use ChatGPT and I can just write it on my own. I can just rewrite whatever it comes out. Just really take some time to think about whether that's efficiency or weakening your cognitive ability.
Yeah. Again,
That's that's
it's
just
like
trans
having a personal trainer who lifts the weights
that's
for you.
that's just transcription or yes. So it's concerning. And if someone is in the situation where either are they try to write something or they try to figure a problem out and they automatically feel tired or discouraged, well, there's the gap. And just like the muscle that gets tired and weak and needs load to build, it's the same thing. It's just very difficult to get that sort of cognitive load by
Yeah.
using the thing that's taking it away.
Yeah.
That's the point.
Yes. And again, that makes your brain muscle, let's call it like that, weak.
Hmm.
So you are less resilient
Hmm.
to the the actual reality of
Right.
what's going on in your life. And we know that the use of that technology has been now clearly linked to symptoms of anxiety and depression, lower sleep quality, lower self-esteem, having unrealistic life expectations, reduced attention span, increased social isolation, increase of addictive and self-destructive behaviors, to the decline and impairment of communication skills, to body image issues, to increased sense of fear, to and not just through the exposure to certain inappropriate content, right? It has been linked to amplification of peer pressure, that especially among teenagers, It has
Mhm.
been linked to reduced level of physical activity. It has been linked to impairment of language skills, writing skills, counting skills, understanding science, disrupts family life. It in males, it's linked to increased aggression.
Mhm.
It's increased risk of identity theft, but also identity related kind of distortions.
Mhm.
It's shown to increase over reliance and the need for social or external validation, so again, making you less resilient. It has been shown to dramatically increase exposure to misinformation and disinformation. It erodes your ability to pay attention to meaningful details. It makes you more likely to have to behave in an impulsive way. It reduces your patience, reduces your persistence, normalizes behaviors that were decade to 2 decades ago would be considered psychopathic even.
Mhm.
It makes you disconnected from others. It makes you rely on non-existing communities in a way
Mhm.
that you normally would never have access to. It increases the perception of the echo chambers that you have. It makes you weaker at problem solving. It makes you weaker at decision making. And these are just the proven things that
Right.
come from use of that technology. So why are people surprised that their life is not what they're supposed to be if they are surrounded or living in an environment that has been designed to make them mentally weaker, right?
Right.
That
Right.
is something to address. I mean, this is becoming also an increasingly more challenging problem for us
Mhm.
because we see people with more and more problems, and a lot of them they look for quick fixes as well because that's what they're used to. Press a
Mhm.
button and I get dopamine. I want to take a tablet and have my problem go away. But it
Yeah.
doesn't. It just makes it worse because it does not address. It's again symptom management. It doesn't under. It doesn't touch the underlying causes of those issues.
Right.
Yeah. So you're not treating it. You're making it worse.
Right. And
Yeah.
if you're in a state, if you're in a state that has all these compounded distortions or weaknesses cognitively, you are more likely to interpret the response as being tailored to you, centered, balanced, and quote, evidence-based, and it's just not.
It
And
isn't. Yeah. What are the smallest things, the easiest thing to do with relatively significant impact that people could start doing straight away?
yeah, simple solution to this.
Hmm. Well, there's no simple solution, and unfortunately, but what are the ones that are easy to implement for everyone straight away and will have a measurable difference quickly?
If they can minimize the use of technology in this way, there's timers, you can step away from it. That might be too big of a step for some people, though.
Yeah, because we recommend some people we recommend putting the phone away for 30 seconds.
Yeah,
And
and it,
for a lot of people that's too big of a task.
yeah, yeah. I think that's a good place to start, though.
Yeah. Turning
I
the
mean,
notifications off.
turning off, or you can set the timer for the duration, the daily allowable
Yeah, the screen time. Yeah.
time. And maybe trying to make some intentional connection with the real people around
Mm.
you too. Again, even if it's just 1 minute, you have a conversation phone free with
Yeah.
your dog even, right? I mean, like try to rebalance the proportion of time that you spend with your device versus with another person or animal, or try to and then when you do this, also notice what's happening and
Yeah.
how you physically respond to this,
Mhm.
because if there is a physical response, that tells you something too.
Oh, it does. Yeah. Or try to delay the picking up of your phone in the morning. See how
Yeah.
long can you go without picking it up from
Hmm.
the moment you wake up.
Yeah.
If you're going to struggle in the first 2 hours of the day,
Yeah. But
think what
again,
it means. Yeah.
yes, but again, it's trainable
Yeah.
and it just takes time. Yeah, but
Yeah.
but
All
I think
those the benefits are fast, right? I mean, the people who
yes.
um who start implementing these even tiny little steps, the benefits they ramp up really quickly. I mean, there is so again there is Not that there's hope. There's a guaranteed and proven solution. Just need to start building your resilience back and be the user of the phone, not being used by it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't be the product.
Right.
Yeah. Use the product. Don't become the product.
Yes. ChatGPT will not challenge your beliefs for you.
Unless you're instructed to do. Yeah.
And even when you do, be very objectively cautious about the answer.
Yeah.